welcome to another episode of Triple Tap. Can you believe, guys, we are up to, I believe, episode 15 now. We have done so many of these, and I know I'm having a great time. Are you guys having a great time? Lance, Ken, how's your week been, and are you enjoying all our Triple Tap series?
I'm loving the series. I've been having a huge time. Had a fantastic time over the last 4 days. I've spent heaps of time with some of our First Nation Crown elders, sovereign elders. I've been learning heaps from them, getting a lot of work done for the Australia project. It's been and look, being here with Ainsley, with you and Lance, and talking with our guests. Triple Tap's a good experience. It's great. We're doing some good work. We're getting the right information out there. It's not easy work, but it's certainly worth it.
Yeah, we certainly are hitting a few nerves with some of our topics that we're coming up, because every now and then we get the trolls coming in. So that's kind of interesting. And YouTube's banned one of our videos already. So we must be over the target. We must be hitting the right topics there, which is great to hear. So Lance, you're just on mute. How's your week been? And there we go.
Yeah, look, I'm going to say I absolutely love working with this team at the Australia Project. All our satellite groups, everyone that's involved, fantastic team. We're really achieving. And I get disappointed. I'm a little disappointed this week because I'm really heartbroken just finding out how much garbage is in the freedom movement in amongst the organisers. And guys, we just got to wake up and point it out and clean them out and get rid of them.
100%. And our TAP satellite groups are so important part of this process, aren't they? And we're going to be talking
absolutely.
about that.
Absolutely.
With our guests.
Fundamentally important. We're building new communities.
Yeah.
We're going to leave the system. So we need it. We need each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so true what you say about the freedom movement. Everyone thinks that just because you're a freedom fighter, that you're on the good side, but there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing out there that we have to use a lot of discernment for, and really dig deeper and find out, what really is their agenda, what's behind it, what's their purpose, where are they heading, what are they achieving, and what are they doing, and are they here to disrupt, or are they here to actually make change? One thing I love being part of the Australia Project is I know we're here to make change. We're here to help create those new systems that people can step into, and it's really, really refreshing. I've been down the rabbit hole for quite a few years, and it's really, really refreshing being part of a group of like-minded people who are of the same mindset, and they want the same things, and we want to achieve better systems for everyone here in Australia. So I'm excited, as Big Kev used to say, I'm excited. So we'll get on tonight. As always, we're only here for an hour. We thank everybody for tuning in and listening into our sessions every week. So I'll get on and introduce our guest speaker for this evening. Her name is Avalon Darnesh. She is one of our TAP satellite admins, and I'm really, really pleased. I love working with Avalon. She is one of the leaders of one of our biggest TAP satellite groups around Australia. It's not an easy task always building these TAP satellite groups, as we're going to hear a little bit more from Avalon and what she's been doing in the community. But let me just share a little bit more about Avalon so you know exactly the caliber of the woman that we are speaking to tonight. She is an incredible woman. She's an unschooling mother, an author, a speaker, and a mentor who has been central to growing one of the largest TAP satellite community groups in Australia, in the Coffs Harbour region. She creates safe spaces for people to gather, connect, vision, plan, and be empowered to develop strong community networks and coordinate meaningful actions that bring harmony, collaboration, and a sense of belonging and shared purpose into our communities. And don't we all need that? She wrote this, Building a Parallel Society, a guide to inspire and bring people together to take action to free ourselves from the tyranny and create a more beautiful world together. Avalon went down the rabbit hole 20 years ago while pregnant with her first baby, being an advocate for natural health and freedom of choice around vaccinations. And after leaving an abusive relationship, her fascination in human behavior and power dynamics led her to study holistic psychology, counseling, and shamanic midwifery, developing her skills in facilitation, conflict resolution, and personal transformation as keys to cultural change. Avalon founded her business, Blossoming Woman, in 2012 as a facilitator of transformational women's work and sacred feminine business. She helps women activate their authentic power, find their voice, and grow a flourishing business from home while raising children in truth, love, and freedom, so we can be financially sovereign and shift the culture from the ground up. Avalon holds the flame of truth with unwavering commitment to integrity, trust, and building a better future for ourselves and our children. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'd love to welcome Avalon Darnesh to the call. How are you, Avalon Darnesh? How are you?
Hello. Oh, that's very exciting. Thank you for welcoming me here. I'm really thrilled to be here on the Triple Tap conversation, as we bring these ideas and inspiration to people so that we can move forward together and bring back this country, bring back connection and love and all of the good things that we're really here for, and clean out all the other stuff that doesn't work anymore. So thanks.
Before we get into all the nitty gritty and unpack everything that you have to share with us, Avalon, I just want to know one thing. What made you decide to get involved with the Australia Project, and in particular, becoming a TAP satellite admin?
Yeah, well, when all of the, when the stuff really started to kick in a couple of years ago, my partner and I have been very home-based with our kids, working from home, and we knew that we needed to connect with local community. So when we heard that there were a few people gathering, a few like-minded, freedom-minded people gathering, we went out and I met up with them in a small group, and I just felt something really come alive in me to connect with other like-minded people, because we had felt a bit isolated before that. And then we met up again and I just thought, I need to be a part of this. Like, this is amazing. And then one of the guys actually said, would you be a part of this? We'd love you to be a part. So really that's where it started. And I had a really good feeling about it. Feel like this is what I'm here for. And yeah, it's just grown from there.
I think we feel the same. When we first started the Australia Project, Avalon, we had a feeling that it was the right thing for us to do as well. And so it's interesting that, like, we're sitting here on the executive team. You're a TAP satellite group leader, and we're experiencing the same reasons that we want to be in this. All the reasons you mentioned are the exact same reasons that we've mentioned. And we've been consistent. Everyone who's involved in TAP has been consistent about their reasoning the whole way through. And the cool thing is, and Lance was talking as we came on about some of the, shonks who are hiding within the freedom movement in this country. And I just think it's great that because of people like yourself, the people who work in your team, and the work that Ainsley and Lance and Cole and Kim do, and Tom, all the work that we do, the TAP satellite group leaders, we've managed to keep that message consistent. And everyone who we talk to, it's all about joining up with each other and working with each other. What sort of challenges have you've faced, like growing a TAP satellite group and getting it functioning? I'll go with that and back it up with some questions later.
Yeah, that's a great question, because when you get any groups of humans together, there's going to be challenges, especially because of the way we've been raised in our culture. Really, there's a threat of disempowerment in mainstream culture. So one of the things that has come up, it's like people often really need to be heard. They might have a really strong idea about something, and what can happen, especially when there's various strong people together, there can be like clashes of opinions, or one person thinks this needs to happen or that needs to happen. And like you said, there's also other people that might be in it for a different reason than the greater good. And so through that, what my role has been is to listen, like to really acknowledge each person's voice and look at, okay, what are the common things? What's the big vision that we're here for? If we're all on the same team looking at the same horizon, let's look at, well, how can we weave all these different perspectives in? Because the truth is we actually don't all need to agree on everything. As long as we're not harming each other or getting in the way of each other, there could be multiple different ways of doing different things. So yeah, one of the big things is navigating differences and making sure that people are heard, especially if people are quiet and kind of step back, also inviting those people to be heard, because the way I see it, everyone's voice matters. And whether they believe it or not, I think everyone has a role to play and has something to contribute and have different gifts and skills that they can bring. And that's actually how we flourish as a society, is when all the different individuals are acknowledged and can, come in and bring their voice to the table and learn how to be respectful and listen to each other so that we can genuinely work together.
Avalon,
Yeah, it's super important.
We're 2.5 years in to this strange event. So we started out with the pandemic of lies, and then we had the weather warfare. We had the promise of a new beginning with the vaccines, which turned out to be a bioweapon. But talk about the people in your community. Are they moving deeper into a fear basis, or are they moving deeper into a positive, we've got this under control, we know what we need to do, we're going to take charge of our own life?
Well, there is a mix. There's a mix in there. What I like to bring to it is that sense of possibility, because when we're in fear, everything sort of diminishes. Like our ability to be creative diminishes, our ability to find solutions diminishes, even our immune system diminishes when we're in fear, right? So it's looking at, okay, there's, the way I see it, there is a higher purpose. There's a higher purpose playing out. There's divine guidance in this. And what I've found in the TAP group is that most of the people stepping forward feel that sense of possibility. They feel a sense of relief. They feel a sense of, oh, finally, there's other people who get it, who see things the same way. And whether we've all come here for this same purpose, there's this a feeling of shared purpose. So ultimately the feeling is one of empowerment, but sometimes people need a little bit of encouragement or reassurance around that. I think that's why it's really important to step up and shine that light of possibility. I've found that it doesn't take much to shift someone from really drowning in fear to go, hey, look, what can you bring? Let's look at what's possible, because empowerment comes through action, right? So if you're kind of sitting there just absorbing all the news, passively just drowning in all the bad news, it's just not actually helpful. I'm quite an optimist, so I'm like, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? How can we support each other? So I think it's important that people in roles of leadership do shine that light and do have that sense of possibility that encourages people to tap into that possibility within themselves. So overall, what I've found in the TAP community, in our local community, is there's a lot of creative ideas bubbling. There's a lot of groups forming. There's, we've had a bit of a quiet time over winter, but a lot of the seeds have already been planted in terms of the infrastructure, so that, if push comes to shove again, if we have the next wave of pressure come in, we've actually already got roots grown deep. We've got groups and connections and enough structure that when the rest of the people realize, oh, I think we need a plan B, we can actually invite that, to happen, invite people to step in and find a role. Because I think without a sense of purpose, people can lose hope. And that, ultimately I see there's a lot of positivity in the movement, and it needs to me, it just needs to stay positive so that we can not succumb to the tyranny and the fear, because that's exactly what is they want. You know, the dark forces, for want of a better term, they want us to be in fear so that we feel powerless. So it's really a radical activism to stand up and say, actually, I can make a difference.
How have you found the synchronicity in everything that's unfolding?
There's so much magic. It's incredible, right? Like when we have gatherings, even if there's nothing particularly structured, it's just the perfect people come in, someone will come in who can fulfill a role that we know that we've just put out for. It's that this is why every day I feel this sense of awe of the coordination on some level, like energetically, as everyone comes together, and that actually just like it lifts our spirits even more. You know, it's been amazing because it's like when you step into that feeling of possibility, then others will meet you there, and it's just, there's been so many synchronicities. It's incredible.
So you and I were on a Zoom with a group in Cairns. So you had connectivity into that group. I'm not even sure how I got an invitation into the group, but I was able to tell them what TAP's doing. And from that, I got invited to Cairns. Now, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to Cairns about. That's the truth. But for some reason, I took up 3 First Nations lawmen, 2 senior lawmen, right, from 2 different nations, and a very, very good friend, my brother. We went up to Cairns and we met the Yidinji. And that's one of the biggest stories I've seen unfold in my life. So we weren't really sure what we were doing up there. And we just took this leap of faith. And there it is. There's the whole system to save the First Nations people, to restore them to their crown position. And we didn't even know about it before we went. It's incredible. This journey is mind-bending.
Yeah, it's amazing. And actually, and it's beautiful to hear that. I'm really looking forward to learning more about that too, because that's just something I'm just starting to learn about. And even when I think about Canberra, right, and going down to Canberra and the amount of energy and the amount of like this, for me, going to Canberra with so many freedom people, all just making huge pilgrimages from far distances to come together. For me, it was such a feeling of victory. It was like, wow, if this many people come out for this purpose, we've won. We've won. Like on some level, we've won. We're just waiting for all the other stuff to kind of reveal itself and fall to pieces, so that we need to really stick together and be strong, because the power of our spirit and the power of that light within us is so much stronger than the dark.
Look, and you can feel it building again. I mean, obviously in Canberra, there were some forces, some darker forces that turned up with a lot of money and a lot of gall. I just call it gall, to try and break things up. But the core of the movement remained strong and came from an awesome place in their own personal lives, in their own personal strength. And I'm feeling that build again. Talking about synchronicity, one of the those elders that Lance was talking about, and he's an amazing guy. He's not soft, but he's so generous of spirit, so generous at heart. I mean, right now he's just invited 2 people in to give them a place to live, right? To give them shelter, and they've been there for a month. And while they're there, he's actually healing physical ailments that they've got. Just the level of love that comes from this man is amazing. 10 years ago, he was in a place on the east coast of Australia. He was at a rally to save a very special lake, which they did. They did save the lake from the development that was supposed to take place there. And in the crowd, he noticed a lady who had some very serious problems that had resulted from a stroke. He used his First Nations medicinal skill to actually heal her, not like a miracle healing, but to actually work with her body over the next short period of time, and actually got her functioning and healed again. He didn't see her again. There was no relationship struck up or anything. He didn't see her again for 10 years, but such was the impact that he had on her. She recognized his voice. He was standing behind her in a queue at a fish and chip shop. She
Wow.
recognized his voice and turned around and said, thank you. You've healed me, etc. And now that lady, who has become a very highly trained paralegal, is working with that First Nations elder for free, just out of compassion and dedication to the freedom and the truth movement. And because of her highly honed legal skills and research ability, she has now gathered the evidence for 125 and counting, 125 counts where the federal government of Australia has deliberately changed geospatial data on maps to totally confuse the lawful boundaries of the First Nations sovereign people and their actual tribal areas. We're talking changing boundaries and deliberately changing the names on the maps to be fictitious ones, so that they can hide the truth about who really owns land. And this lady, I mean, there's the synchronicity, right? A random act of kindness based on faith, and 10 years later, she's repaying that kindness to help work, with the... Look, there are individuals who have these skills, right, that we need. Tell us a little bit about how you find specific individuals with their skills and how you match them up to what you think they might be best suited for.
Yeah, so firstly, just in response to that, I love the generosity that I'm seeing within the freedom movement with the ones with the heart in the right place. It's just so incredible, and it really shows me that we've got this. Like, we've got the resources, we've got the intelligence, we've got the people that show up exactly when they need to. So in terms of people finding their roles in the community, what I've found is it takes people to come together. There's so much power in coming together, for starters, right? Because I mean, a lot of us have been developing our skills in our own ways over the past few decades, and coming into community, it brings out those skills in a way that you can start to see. When you've got the eyes to see, you can just see where that fits. And by encouraging people to come in and be a part of it and get together we have coffee mornings, we have gatherings, we've had some visioning groups, and in those groups with the conversation, I can see where people really come alive when there's something that they feel passionate about, and often they'll self-identify. They'll be like, yeah, hey, that's something I can help with. So it's really just opening up that space for people to come together and have conversations and start to vision and dream and think about possibilities, that it becomes quite effortless, actually, where people find the place where they can fit. I'm in the process of, like, I've mapped out some different things for our area, and with this building a parallel society guidebook that I'm putting together, I feel that will actually help people to see what the roles are that need to be filled, so that they can step forward and fill those roles. So that it's a really important thing, right, moving forward, because a lot of the roles that we're stepping into are things that haven't even existed before, or maybe it's a new way of doing things. So it's quite a synergistic process that happens when we get together, when we have conversations, when we also allow people to really reflect on, okay, well, what is it that you would really love to do? Because the way I see it, what we're being invited to do is to really align with, like, what is our sole purpose on earth? What are we actually here for? Like, that's where we're at right now. And some people gravitate towards working with the children. Some people gravitate towards growing food or working with the plants. And some people really move into more positions of leadership or coordinating things. And those gifts and skills start to emerge when we allow the space for it and provide that encouragement, you know, and just reassure people, hey, you're valuable. What is it that you like to do? And for some people, they've never even thought about it because they've been so busy just doing the same old, might have had a 9-to-5 job, which they got squeezed out of because of the mandates. And in retrospect, even though it was stressful at the time, I'm hearing so many people saying it's the best thing that ever happened to me, because now that frees them up to actually step into what they're really here for.
Yeah. Avalon, I just want to ask you, like, this is, as that's alluded to before, we've been going for 2.5, nearly 3 years with this rubbish now. And we are fighting a bit of a war. Might not be a physical war like we're used to seeing, but it's definitely a spiritual war. And there are people out there that are really, really strong and are really good at holding the space. And there are people there that are still living in fear. When people come to join your TAP satellite group, how do you inspire them, I suppose, to not lose faith, not lose the faith, and keep hope and keep moving forward? What kind of things are you sharing with them? Or is it getting them involved in the activities that you've got in the group that really helps them not to lose that faith and hope and to keep going?
I think a sense of belonging is a really big thing. When people feel isolated, then it's easy to go into a downward spiral, you know, especially if people are really absorbing a lot of the news and the stories, because there's a lot of really dark stuff going on and a lot of, you know, a lot of corruption and violation being revealed, which is really massive. Like, we're going through such a huge time on earth at the moment as all this stuff has been revealed. And as we know, it's not all of a sudden just happening. Like, it's been happening for decades, centuries, thousands of years, actually. So I think a really big thing to ignite that sense of hope and possibility is to actually come out and see things differently, see things with fresh eyes, realize that actually when we come together, when we do things and encourage each other and inspire each other and be involved in activities, it's sort of like what I said before around the empowerment comes through action. It comes through doing. It comes through being a part of something and knowing that there's actually others on this path. Because a lot of people who are in the freedom movement have been the black sheep of their family, or they've been maybe isolated or rejected and have gone through, particularly the last couple of years. If, you know, it's still the minority, the people who know what's going on and happy to speak about it. So it can be really refreshing and healing to be in a space where someone is actually seen and acknowledged and accepted. And I think there's really a big part of that helps people to feel a sense of possibility, because I see that a lot of the mental health challenges people struggle with, a lot of that is because of the way the culture is and because of the lack of connection. So connection to me is a key, you know, and it's a bit of a challenge, particularly when people are feeling you know, low and they don't even want to go out and connect with people. So, you know, that's one of the big challenges, and the biggest vision I see is no one is left behind. Like, how do we find the people who really need support and connection? And, you know, and this comes down to our local areas and getting to know people in our community and getting to know people in your street, you know, and saying hello and seeing if someone's okay, checking in with people. So yeah, connection really makes a big difference.
What about feeling useful?
Definitely. Yeah. Sense of purpose, feeling useful, having a role to play.
To play. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You talked about getting to know neighbours as well, and it just as soon as you said that, I sparked and I reminded of, you know, street reps and our street reps program, and, you know, getting to know your neighbours and talking to your neighbours and educating your neighbours. So there's a role for everything with all the street rep stuff and the TAP satellite admins. What qualities does it take to become a TAP satellite admin and supporting and leading people in your local communities? Because I'm sure there's people out there that might be listening and, you know, want to, you know, think about, well, I could lead a community. What's involved? What does it take to lead a community?
Yeah, well, first is a willingness, just realizing that you can, right? I'm a normal person. We just stepped in, we just connected with other normal people. It's like, just if you feel that spark of inspiration, like, hey, I want to have a group of people, just start with one person. Even just get together with someone. I think it's really important to find at least someone that you can do it with, so you're not just doing it on your own. We've actually got a little team. Our group started with 4 men getting together and realizing something needed to happen. So at least maybe find someone, put the word out, just get together, let people know that you're getting together. And it really is, to me, it's a long game, right? It's not going to change overnight. It might start small. You might only have a couple of people and then maybe a couple more, and there's so much creativity that comes from getting together with people. Yeah. and brainstorming ideas, and leaning into the TAP community and the leadership community. There's great support and inspiration, and like I said, I'm about to get this little map out that can also help give some ideas. So just do it, just get started. That's my advice.
We're definitely looking forward to your book coming out. If any of our listeners are here and you're loving what Avalon is sharing with us tonight about getting involved in the TAP satellite communities, please do, after the call, go to the australiaproject.org under the call to action and find the TAP satellite. You can find a TAP satellite group in your area, and if you can't find one in your suburb or your postcode, that's a really good indication that there's a space there for you to be able to create a TAP satellite group for your own community. And we would love to hear from you, and we're here to support each and every one of you in the TAP admin space so that you can go out and support your local community. So thanks for sharing that, Avalon.
So Avalon, one question: how do I get an invitation to come to Coffs Harbour to talk to the TAP group?
Well, here it is. Come.
Because I could do a road trip, and we could do Coffs Harbour, slip over to Tamworth out the back, come back through the New England. I think it'd be a really worthwhile trip, because I want to sign up everybody to street reps while I'm doing this, and give that a big push. It's one of our best initiatives, and I'm happy to come and see everybody and explain it and see if we can get some enthusiasm building around it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Lance, if you're doing that road trip, Lance, you definitely got to make sure that WA's on your map, because we definitely need some oomph over here behind our people to get them going as well. So we would love
Ainsley, I don't even think WA is on the map. I'm
we're still asleep.
I'll have to have a look.
We're still asleep. I can say that right now. I'm sure we are. Let's wake them all up.
Oh, there's some amazing people in WA. I know it.
Of
They
course,
most definitely
Avalon.
are.
Excellent. Avalon, in the bio, I talked and I mentioned about you have a program called Blossoming Woman. And obviously it's maybe for the women. Can you share a little bit more about what is Blossoming Woman all about? And what does it do?
Yeah, so essentially this is about women finding our voice and our role in community. The way I see it, women are weavers of culture. We're creators, we birth, and we need the men by our side, right? We're kind of moving to that point where we need to move beyond the division, but also acknowledge our different roles and the different qualities we bring as men and women. In my work, I support, it's through the different stages that women go through around pregnancy and birth, to be empowered and raise children in a way that they retain that connection with their authentic self. And I also help women to then express themselves in the world, to find their voice, to show up and do what they're here for, because we need all hearts on board. Women bring that love and the heart, and we need the men beside us to really anchor it in and bring the structures and the support that we need. So we kind of find this beautiful dance together. And I work with my partner Brett too. One of the things that excites me a lot is to help women become empowered financially and get off Centrelink, so that you're actually not reliant on those kind of systems that we really can't rely on moving forward, to become just more liberated. So you're dancing to the beat of your own drum. You can have your children at home if you want to, you can homeschool or school. It's really, there's so many possibilities, but essentially a lot of the work is around just supporting women to trust their intuition and to show up and be who they're meant to be, rather than playing small and feeling scared. Yeah, to really just, because we all benefit, you know, when someone's in their heart and they're really feeling fully alive and showing up and doing what they're here for. That's what excites me. I love like activating that sense of possibility, so that we can just move out of that sort of the doldrums of that mainstream culture that just is kind of just going around in circles, but instead just step into what's actually possible. And we don't even know yet. Like, we're still, every day we're stepping into the edge of creation. Like, it's continually moving forward. And yeah, just finding, you know, supporting people to find their role in this ecology of who we are as a society.
Hey, before you were talking, Avalon, about parallel systems, right? So that we can move into a different way of life and we can remove the rubbish that's been going on. Talking of the rubbish that's been going on, and this is a personal opinion that I'm expressing here, Mr. Sleazy, Albanese, now thinks it's a top idea to implement, to force on private company owners a forced digital identity. And I was talking with a farmer who has who runs a family business as a company. It's a generational farm. And he shared with me that because of this, if he just says, look, I don't want to have anything to do with that, so I'll collapse the company. In order to change the assets into his name, the stamp duty is $100,000 to the Australian federal government. $100,000 for stuff that he already owns. And if he fails, which of course can't be paid, so that'll bankrupt the company. If he fails to provide the necessary information and comply with the digital identity, the fine for him could be up to $1 million. The different systems that we're creating, do you see that they'll actually help us beat the government and recreate a much better Australia? Because I mean, I do, and I've got good examples of that, but I'm just curious, with the systems that are being created, how you see them helping.
Oh yeah, we don't need the government when we get together and we pool our resources. Like, we are so resourceful. That's the other thing that I've seen. We are so resourceful and creative and innovative. And yeah, I really see us just opt out, like just opt out of that. We don't need that. We've got everything. The more people that opt out of, you know, towing the line of all that tyranny, the more resources that we actually have, true wealth that we can share between ourselves. And that, you know, it comes back to that generosity and that sense of all our needs are met when we come together and we bring our resources together and we bring our you know, our skills and our ideas together. We realize that we don't even need that, you know, even for building roads and stuff. I'm sure we could just like figure that out. Like, whatever problems that arise, we can figure it out.
Well, I'm with you, and I'll tell you what, it's not sleazy Albanese who builds the roads. It's the men and women who are actually out there building the roads, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, absolutely, we can figure out how to build roads, and we certainly don't need them. I utterly agree with you. I believe that Australia will I think we're in such an exciting time that Australia will recreate itself. I'm super excited to be involved with TAP and the work that we're all achieving together to help create these brand new systems. It really is an amazing time, and it's amazing to be here, you know, with people such as yourself actually doing the groundwork.
Yeah, it is.
It's phenomenal.
It's very exciting. And, you know, the way I see it, like with that story you shared about the farmer being, you know, forced to do the digital ID, the more the government try and push this onto people, they're just going to get a massive pushback. Like that, it's like the more they squeeze tighter, it's like, at what point does it break? they just can't keep doing that, because what we're seeing is, especially as we become more vocal and visible in the community, going, hey, you know what, there's another way, then more and more people are going to actually like come to the light side.
Avalon,
Yeah.
how important is it for people to speak up and speak their truth as it is? How important is that in this day and age?
To me, it's everything. To me, it is everything. We've got to speak up, stop being scared, like realize that when you speak up, even if other people don't agree, you're going to plant a seed, right? And it does take some strength to speak up. And that's why I think, and that, you know, that's related to the work I do. It's to really feel grounded in yourself, feel like a sense of belonging. Like, you know, even if you need to take a deep breath and feel your feet on the ground and imagine that you're like a big tree with roots in the ground, that you're so strong, you're so solid, you're so held. And, you know, everyone's got their own different ways of feeling strong, but that strength and that fire within is so valuable and so powerful, because it's really our voices that are shifting things as we reach out and we find each other, because it's a psychological war, right? And a spiritual war. And if we can stand up and speak up against it, that's what ignites that for other people. They go, oh, there is something else. So I'm all about that. That's a big part of what I support people to do. And I love it when I see people speaking up. It's like, hallelujah.
And of course, when people speak up, Avalon, it also comes with sometimes a sense of or an element of persecution from others. And that's always a tough thing, because many people shy away from that, or it will either spur them on or have them cower away. So they go, well, I'm not going to speak my truth if that's what I'm going to get. If you come across people like that, what kind of advice do you give them when they want to be able to speak their truth openly and honestly, and yet they constantly feeling, you know, that coming at them? What kind of advice would you give for people like that to keep going?
Well, firstly, acknowledging that it is a real thing, like persecution is a real thing. And in our consciousness, like over hundreds of years or even beyond, people have literally been killed for speaking the truth, right? And so in our cellular memory, on some level, it's there, like it's this fear of death. Because it's not just that, not just the collective persecution wound that's there. And I support people to clear that, but also what was I going to say? I've just lost my train of thought. But the thing is, find your people, find your tribe, find that strength within you, because there was something that I was going to say about that, around the fear and around the persecution and around the judgment. Like that's built into our whole conditioning, that if you say something different, that you're shunned and you're like outed. That's what I was going to say. It's this fear of being outcast from the tribe, which then creates this fear of death. So like acknowledge that's there. What I like to actually do is support people to feel it and acknowledge it. And it's really scary. And actually find some support around that if it's debilitating, if you're feeling that you're feeling like your throat, some people literally feel like the throat's locking up and there's a big block there and the sound's not coming out because on some level they're protecting themselves from being killed. Acknowledge that that's there. Don't ignore it, but then there are ways to move through it. And that could be, you might need to talk to someone. You might need some support. It's not something that you need to confront on your own, because that can actually be so huge.
So I'm going to put you on the spot now, Avalon. What advice would you give to the farmer?
Oh, that's a good question. I reckon the farmer needs to reach out and get support by like thousands of other people who stand up for him.
I think you're right. But I also think what the farmer needs to do is ignore them. Because just because the government creates legislation doesn't make it lawful. Now, you think about this. They're saying if you don't get a digital ID, you can't be the director of your company. So what? Don't become the director of the company. Let them cancel the company. That then gives them a huge problem with the land, because they forced the problem, not you. So you can say, well, you close the company. you're going to have to transfer it to whatever title I say now. This
And
wasn't my doing. This was your doing. I think we capitulate too easily. And I think that we look at their little simpering, whimpering, bullying tactics, you know. I mean, the communist grub, Albanese, he's the classic communist background, you know, and everything just, he ticks every box as a communist. And the number one box they tick is cowardice. So we just need to stand up to these people nicely, calmly, and say, we don't want your service. It's that simple. Just refuse it. Get more people to refuse the service. Farmers in Australia are worth trillions of dollars in export and real estate. And if they just got together and said, we're not going to do it, they would simply win. And that's the power of the people.
Definitely.
We have the power. All we got to do is find the kahunas to stand up and tell them.
Exactly. There's power in numbers for sure. And the only way that the government's getting away with this is because they're doing it. They're bullies and they're picking on individuals, right? So when people can come together and say, well, no, we're not going to take it, you know, so that farmer feels strong to say that, so is not intimidated and bullied. Yeah, power in numbers, definitely.
Absolutely.
So we're seeing
we got
a good
3
plan.
million people to Canberra because a truck driver in Perth said, I'm going to Canberra.
Yeah.
It's that easy sometimes, and people need to realize sometimes how easy it is. Now, I'm not trying to underrate what happened in Canberra because it was truly a miracle. But you've got to have that courage to say, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to get a digital ID, and I'm not going to pay the stamp duty, and just let the cards fall.
And I'm going to call out for support from people who are in the same situation and stand up for who are prepared to stand up for what we believe is right. I love what Lance, I love what you and Avalon said. Lance, you talked about doing it courteously, about doing it calmly. You don't have to be abusive about this. You just simply say, look, I don't want your service. I'm not, what you are trying to force on me is morally wrong. And I also love Avalon, that you said, look, people's feelings get in the way, right? Like there's a lot of fear around this. I don't suffer from that problem as much as perhaps the next person. I'm quite happy to speak my mind very candidly, and just tell them the truth. I was at a fuel station, a particular fuel station owner had the gall to tell me that he thought that people who were dying from the vax with blood clots, etc., was a good thing for the planet, that the planet needed more people to die, which is dreadful, just dreadful that someone would say that, as far as I'm concerned. There was a creek flooding across the street because that was during the weather warfare. And I quite happily suggested to him that if he wanted the population of the world to decrease, I would be happy if he wanted to make use of that creek for himself straight away. But and I know that that's a joke, right? Because I can see the funny side of it. But the fact of it is, I did it courteously to him. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't call him an idiot with names or anything like that. I said, look, if that's your genuine feeling, perhaps you first. There's a flooded creek across the road. And I can still talk with that guy. He still remembers that incident. We don't have to be abusive. In fact, being abusive, being angry, and not speaking our truth. I love that word from Ainsley. She talks to me about that phrase. She talks to me about speaking our truth all the time. In speaking our truth, it needs to be done. It's got to be done. We need truth speakers here in our country to unite. But the greatest work is done while speaking our truth if we do so courteously, with a solid understanding that people have feelings. We don't want to hurt their feelings. We want to ally them to our cause. And I love the fact that you stand for that. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks. And, you know, and circling back to when people feel terror about speaking up, one way to move through that is to find people, like, join a tap group, find like-minded people where you are safe to talk about the things that other people judge you for, because you can find that strength with others. And then when you feel strong and you realize you're not alone, you're not the only one with these opinions or this perspective, then, you can start to gently inch out and speak up to others. The thing is, I suppose something's shifted for me where I don't feel like I need to preach to anyone or convince anyone. All I need to do is speak what I know to be true and invite people to really connect in with what is actually true for you, right? Because there's a lot of diversity, and that's great. We don't all actually need to think the same way. But it's interesting, you just ask a few questions. If someone has a very strong opinion about things and that underneath it, they're actually based on lies or facade or propaganda, you can just, the more knowledge that you have, you can just ask some key questions that people and not be rude about it, but invite people to start to question their perspectives. And I think it's a lot more effective if you can be respectful and communicate with other people, because then, like, the conversation you had at the garage with the guy, they're more likely going to reflect on that and think about that, compared to if you're abusive and really dominating over someone, and then they can just write you off and just go, oh, look, he was just being a bully or something probably a bit more profane than that. So yeah, there's a lot of power in learning to communicate effectively so that people can hear it, because essentially what I would like to see is that we're actually moving forward together. Even the people that are following the narrative that don't really get it, what's going on, that it's not actually their fault. Like, we're all walking towards the same horizon. And so if we treat people that don't know stuff as the enemy, we're actually just playing the same game of division. It's like we move above that and step into this feeling of, okay, we're all here together. We're all on the same country, on the same land. We need to actually start to figure this out. We need to start to work together. And yeah, that's a huge conversation, right? Because that's really where the shift happens.
It is. That is where the shift happens. I agree with you. Yeah, we've got to work together. And that, look, I'm finding that there are some telltale signs. This is just me personally. Again, I'm finding there are some telltale signs when I find freedom fighters who are depending upon their freedom fighting efforts to actually fund their own personal lives. That's when we start to see coercion from big money and corruption start to sneak into the new direction that we want to take Australia in. Those so-called freedom fighters who are relying on the people involved in the freedom movement in this country to supply them with an income. That's when I start to see the troubles happen. I start to see police intimidation kick in. We start to see bribery and corruption kick in. We're seeing that in a few of the freedom groups. The love of that money rather than look, it's going to take money to help win this. There's going to need to be money spent in certain areas. But when the leaders of those groups rely on it for their personal life, their personal income, they just become vulnerable. That's a fact. And that's why I love what you're doing, because you help people step out of that vulnerability, to take control of their own life, to be courageous, be a good communicator, make that shift, get involved, find your community. These are the simple things that actually empower the individual, which then empowers the whole nation.
Can I ask Avalon a question, please? You mentioned vision session earlier. What's a vision session?
Oh, that was so fun. So basically we hired a hall and we got anyone who was interested from the TAP community said, come along, we're going to do a visioning session just to look at, okay, what's possible in our community? What needs to happen? And it was a very open kind of space, a lot of encouraging creativity and brainstorming. I just got a whole bunch of big sheets of butcher's paper and different markers and said, look, you know, first I asked people, what kind of area of the community are you interested in? We had a few ideas to get it started, like like I've got a few of the things here, like social communications, health, law and governance, prepping, food production, families, education and training, resources, like economy, arts. There's a whole bunch of things. And like, okay, who's interested in that? So we got groups of people together who would just go into a group and start brainstorming ideas. What needs to happen in this area? Like they could look at what are the challenges in this area, what are the hurdles we need to overcome, and what's possible. So people split into groups, and some groups kind of joined together, and then there was a time limit. I think they had 30 minutes or something to kind of nut that out, and then someone was a representative from each group who then shared with the whole group at the end, this is what we spoke about in our group. So then everyone got a little bit of a feel for what's going on. And it was just, there was so much creative energy and so much optimism and this feeling of we're actually doing it. Like we're creating it. We're creating the culture that some of us have been dreaming about for a long time. And it invites that sense of possibility and people to take part and find their role, you know, find that sense of purpose. So that's what that was about. And I'm ready to do it again, because I think that was last year, or maybe really it was a while ago now. So we're due for another one.
I'm going to make a suggestion too. We went to a trivia night, Anna and I, at Awake Gold Coast, which is a lot of TAP members and some really cool people. And they had a conspiracy theory TAP night. Rubes and Shazza run it.
I saw that. That looked so fun.
It was a ball. It was lighthearted. They probably got about 60 or 70 normies come along to the night.
Wow.
And everyone had a fantastic night. Now, Rubes has got the whole format done, Rubes and Shazza, so you can have that and run your own down there.
That'd be so fun.
Really worthwhile. They got 200 people.
Yeah.
It was oversubscribed. Yeah. They were turning people away at the German club.
Amazing. Yeah, I'd love to do that here too. That sounded so fun. I saw that and I was like, oh, I wish I was there.
Definitely sounds like something we could do over here as well. Avalon, just before we close, how do women in particular get in touch with you in regard to, say, the Blossoming Woman information? Is that your website there, blossomingwoman, is it, .com.au? We just
That's right.
That in the chat there for anyone who's interested, and we will also put that in the replay. Before we go, Avalon, if you could leave like a one piece of advice or words of encouragement to our listeners today, perhaps about starting their own TAP satellite group, what would that be?
Trust yourself and get out there and have conversations with people. Like, you've got a role to play. If you feel that fire within, trust it, take action, because empowerment comes through action, and there's going to be others that join you. So go for it.
Fantastic.
That's
guys,
awesome.
Do you guys have any last questions for Avalon?
I'd just like to say thanks for coming on, Avalon. It's been an absolute pleasure. You guys are making it happen, and I'm happy to be part of it. I'm really happy.
Fantastic. I'm going to encourage all of our listeners this evening, if you want to get involved in a TAP satellite group, make sure you're a player in the game, not a spectator on the sidelines watching things happen. Be part of those that make things happen in our country, in your state, in your community, and let's all make change for the better. Avalon, I want to thank you for joining us. You are a beautiful, inspiring, inspirational, empowering light warrior woman. I love having conversations with you when we talk one-on-one. And I really want to thank you for your time this evening, coming along and showing or talking to us about the TAP satellite groups, because you have been a big, big player in the TAP satellite groups as far as how much you've done in the community and inspiring others to be a part of that. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And also know that we're here to support people, right? If people want to get groups started, reach out. We're here. We've got the resources and the support for you.
Absolutely. Lance, Kent, thank you also so much for being a part of this with us and joining and co-hosting this with me. It's absolutely always a pleasure to do Triple Chat with you every week. And to our listeners this evening, thank you for joining us each and every week and hearing from our inspiring speakers. We look forward to bringing these to you. We've got some great speakers coming up. And so thanks, everybody. We'll look forward to seeing you next time on Triple Chat. Bye for now.
Thanks, Ainsley.
Thank you.